There was a time when earning $100,000 a year meant you had officially made it. You were not merely doing okay, you were successful. You could afford a decent house, drive a reliable car, raise a family, take a vacation, save for retirement, and still have enough money left over that one unexpected bill would not completely destroy your month. At least, that is the image most people still have in their heads. 6 figures. It sounds rich because, for decades, $100,000 was the invisible finish line. It was the salary parents bragged about. It was the salary used in movies to tell you a character was successful. It was the salary people imagined would finally make money, stop being a daily concern. But here is the problem. The number stayed the same while everything that number was supposed to buy became significantly more expensive, and that is why you can earn $100,000 today, make more than most Americans, and still look at your bank account wondering where all of it went. Before anybody gets mad, I am not saying someone earning $100,000 is poor. The median American household earned about $83,730 in 2024, while the median full-time worker earned $1,235 per week during the first quarter of 2026, which comes out to roughly $64,000 a year. So yes, $100,000 is objectively an above-average income, but above average and rich are two completely different things. That distinction is the entire video, because we have been using a salary benchmark created for a completely different economy. And once you adjust that number for what money can actually buy, the modern 6-figure salary starts looking a lot less impressive. Let me show you exactly what happened. In the year 2000, the Consumer Price Index averaged 172.2. By May 2026, that index had risen to approximately 335.1. That means someone earning $100,000 in 2000 had purchasing power roughly equivalent to earning $195,000 today. Put another way, earning $100,000 today gives you approximately the purchasing power that $51,000 provided in 2000. So the thumbnail saying $100,000 is the new $50,000 sounds like ridiculous clickbait, but when you adjust for overall inflation, it is basically true. That does not mean every individual item has exactly doubled. Televisions, computers, and certain consumer goods have actually become cheaper relative to their quality. But the things that determine whether you feel financially secure are not televisions. They are housing, transportation, healthcare, childcare, insurance, education, and those are exactly the expenses that can consume a salary before you ever experience the lifestyle that salary supposedly represents. Let's follow the money. You get offered a job paying $100,000 a year. That sounds incredible because your brain immediately divides it by 12. That is $8,333 every month, except you are obviously not receiving $8,333. Let's imagine you are single and take the standard deduction. Under the 2026 federal brackets, you would owe approximately $13,170 in federal income tax. You would also pay about $7,650 in Social Security and Medicare taxes. That leaves approximately $79,180 or $6,598 per month before state income taxes, local taxes, health insurance, retirement contributions, or any other payroll deductions. Depending on where you live and what benefits you select, the money actually deposited into your checking account might be somewhere around $5,500 to $6,100 per month. That is still good money. But notice how quickly the fantasy changes. You did not really receive $100,000. You received a monthly amount that now has to support the entire life people associate with earning $100,000. And the first thing you need is somewhere to live. The median sales price of a newly built home was $424,900 in May 2026. In the first quarter of 2000, it was approximately $165,300. In 2000, a $100,000 salary was equivalent to about 60% of the median new home price. Today, the median new home costs more than 4 times a $100,000 salary. Now imagine you somehow saved enough to put 10% down on that $424,900 home. That is a down payment of $42,490 before closing costs. You would need to borrow about $382,000. As of July 9th, 2026, the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate was 6.49%. At that rate, the principal and interest payment alone would be approximately $2,415 per month. And that is not your total housing payment. You still have property taxes, Homeowners insurance, possibly private mortgage insurance because you only put 10% down, possibly an HOA, repairs, maintenance, utilities, a roof that eventually needs replacing, an air conditioner that waits until the hottest week of the year to die. That $2,415 mortgage can very easily become a monthly housing cost above $3,000 depending on where you live. So our six-figure earner could be spending roughly half of their deposited paycheck on a fairly ordinary home. Not a mansion, not some ridiculous celebrity house, a median-priced new home. And before someone says, just rent, renting does not magically remove the problem. It changes the form of the problem. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, American households spent an average of $26,266 on housing in 2024. That is $2,189 per month. Transportation added another $13,318 per year, or $1,110 per month. Together, housing and transportation consumed just over half of average household spending. That means the two expenses required to exist somewhere and physically move through society averaged nearly $3,300 per month. You have not eaten yet, you have not gone to a doctor, you have not paid off student loans, you have not saved for retirement. You have simply acquired shelter and the ability to leave that shelter. This is the first reason $100,000 does not feel rich anymore. Your largest expenses are not luxuries. They are the admission fee required to participate in normal American life. And transportation is one of the most deceptive ones because people rarely calculate its true cost. They see a $600 car payment and think the car costs $600. But then you add insurance, gas, oil changes, tires, registration, parking, repairs, tolls, depreciation, interest on the loan. Maybe you bought a larger vehicle because you have children. Maybe your insurance is higher because of your age or zip code. Maybe you need two vehicles because both adults in the household work and your city has no usable public transportation. Suddenly, a normal transportation setup can absorb more than $1,000 every month. Again, you are not driving a Lamborghini, you are driving to work. And this is where people start talking past one another. Someone earning $50,000 hears a person earning $100,000 complain about money and understandably thinks, how are you struggling? You make twice what I make. But the six-figure earner may not be saying they cannot survive. They are saying the lifestyle they were told $100,000 would purchase no longer exists at that price. Those are different claims. You can be fortunate compared with the median worker and still recognize that the benchmark itself has lost half its purchasing power. Now, let's add food. American households spent an average of $10,169 on food during 2024, or about $847 per month. Of that, $6,224 was spent on food at home and $3,945 was spent eating outside the home, including delivery and takeout. People will immediately focus on the restaurant spending and say, well, there it is, stop ordering food. And yes, eating out constantly can destroy your budget. But even removing every restaurant purchase does not solve the underlying mathematics. Food at home still averaged more than $500 a month, and that is across all kinds of households. If you have children, dietary restrictions, a medical condition, or live somewhere with unusually high grocery prices, your number could be much higher. So let's build a very normal monthly budget for our single six-figure earner. They receive roughly $6,000 after federal, payroll, state, and benefit deductions. The exact amount will vary, but we will use that as a reasonable example. They spend $2,000 on rent. That is not especially luxurious in many metropolitan areas. They spend $900 on transportation once the car payment, insurance, gas, and maintenance are averaged together. They spend $600 on groceries and occasional meals outside the home. Utilities, internet, and a phone cost $350. That leaves $2,150, which still sounds pretty good. But now we need to fund retirement because a high income is useless if you save none of it. A 10% retirement contribution would be $833 per month based on gross income. Now we have $1,317. Maybe they have a $400 student loan payment. Now they have $917. They need clothing, household items, medical copays, gifts, travel, personal care, entertainment, unexpected expenses, and ordinary things that make life feel like life rather than a long financial emergency. They should also build an emergency fund, save toward a home down payment, and possibly invest outside of retirement. They are comfortable, but are they rich? Could they stop working for a year? Could they comfortably survive support a family on that income? Could they buy the median home without putting themselves under enormous pressure? Could they experience a major illness, replace a car, and help a struggling family member in the same year without using debt? Probably not. And this is the real difference between income and wealth. A $100,000 salary can provide a good life. Wealth provides control. If the person earning $100,000 loses their job and has 3 months of savings, their lifestyle has a 3-month expiration date. The salary sounds impressive, but it disappears the moment the employer stops sending it. A genuinely wealthy person can survive without their next paycheck because they own assets, have large cash reserves, or receive income that is not entirely dependent on showing up to work. That is why earning a high salary can make someone appear rich while they remain financially fragile. Now let's make the example harder. Let's give our 6-figure earner a family. This is where $100,000 can go from comfortable to surprisingly tight almost overnight. Imagine a married couple with 1 young child and a total household income of $100,000. Using the 2026 standard deduction and federal tax brackets for married couples, they would have approximately $84,700 remaining after federal income tax and employee payroll taxes, or around $7,060 per month before state taxes and employee benefits. Now we add health insurance. In 2025, the average employer-sponsored family health insurance premium reached $26,993. Employers paid most of that, but workers still contributed an average of $6,850 per year from their paychecks. That is approximately $571 per month. And paying the premium does not mean healthcare is now free. Among workers whose plans included a deductible, the average deductible for single coverage was $1,886. Family deductibles can be substantially higher depending on the type of plan, so you are paying hundreds every month for the privilege of still potentially owing thousands when someone actually becomes sick. Now add childcare. The national average price of childcare reached $13,184 in 2025, or approximately $1,099 per month. In most states, infant care costs more than in-state public university tuition. Think about what that means. Before this family pays for housing, food, transportation, or anything else, health insurance premiums and childcare alone consume about $1,670 every month. Now subtract the average monthly household costs we already discussed, about $2,189 for housing, $1,110 for transportation, $847 for food, $571 for the employee share of family health insurance, $1,099 for childcare. That totals approximately $5,816 per month from the roughly $7,060 remaining after federal income and payroll taxes. The family has around $1,244 left. And that remaining money still has to cover state and local taxes, utilities not already captured, clothing, household products, debt, healthcare deductibles, prescriptions, retirement savings, emergency savings, children's expenses, repairs, entertainment, and everything else that happens during a year. These are national averages, not a precise budget for every family. Some families will spend less. Families in expensive cities may spend significantly more. But the point should be obvious. A household earning 6 figures can make responsible decisions, avoid luxury purchases, and still have very little margin after paying for the major components of an ordinary life. They are not starving, they are not poor, but they are also not living the life that 6 figures still advertises. And that gap between the number and the lifestyle creates a strange psychological problem. You finally reach the salary you spent years chasing. You expect relief. Then the relief never really arrives. Maybe you no longer panic at the grocery store. Maybe you can pay your bills automatically. Maybe a $300 emergency is annoying rather than catastrophic. That progress matters, but you still cannot afford the house you expected. You still feel nervous about childcare. You still need to calculate whether you can take a vacation. You still worry about losing your job because your expenses expanded to meet the income. And because you earn $100,000, you feel guilty admitting any of this. You think, people make far less than me. Why do I still feel behind? Part of the answer may be lifestyle inflation. We have to acknowledge that honestly. Some people receive a raise and immediately upgrade everything. The apartment becomes larger, the car becomes newer, the restaurants become more expensive, the vacations become more frequent, the clothes become nicer. Every increase in income creates an equal increase in recurring expenses, so the person never experiences greater freedom. They make more money, but every future paycheck is already promised to somebody. That is a real problem. But lifestyle inflation is not the entire explanation. You cannot blame everything on luxury spending when housing and transportation alone account for half of average household expenditures. You cannot budget your way out of a childcare bill that costs more than college tuition. You cannot cancel enough subscriptions to turn a $400,000 home into a $165,000 home. At some point, we have to admit that the cost of building a stable life has risen faster than the cultural benchmarks we use to define success, and $100,000 is one of those outdated benchmarks. The number became emotionally frozen. People hear six figures and imagine what six figures bought 20 or 30 years ago, but inflation does not care about nostalgia. The economy keeps moving, even when our language does not. This also explains why conversations about income become so hostile online. One person says $100,000 is not rich. Another person responds that they survive on $40,000. Both may be telling the truth. The person earning $40,000 is correctly pointing out that $100,000 provides enormous advantages compared with their income. The person earning $100,000 is correctly pointing out that it may no longer provide the home, family security, and financial independence traditionally associated with that salary. The mistake is treating better than average as identical to wealthy. You can earn more than average without being wealthy. You can live comfortably without being financially independent. You can afford your current bills without being able to withstand a serious disruption. In 2025, only 63% of American adults said they could cover a $400 emergency using cash, savings, or a credit card that they would pay off immediately. Only 35% of non-retirees believed their retirement savings were on track. This is the economic environment surrounding the six-figure salary. The number may look high, but the financial responsibilities attached to modern adulthood are also high. So what salary actually means you have made it today? There is no single answer. In a low-cost city, a single person earning $100,000 with no debt may feel genuinely wealthy. They may rent for $1,200, own a paid-off car, invest thousands every month, and have no dependents. Meanwhile, a family earning $100,000 in New York, Los Angeles, Miami, Boston, Seattle, or San Francisco may feel constant pressure. Location changes everything, family size changes everything, debt changes everything, health changes everything. Whether you bought a house in 2019 or are attempting to buy one in 2026 changes everything. Two people can earn the exact same salary and live in completely different financial realities. That is why you should stop using gross salary as the primary measurement of whether someone is rich. Ask better questions. How much do they keep after taxes? How many people depend on that income? How much do they spend on housing? Do they need one car or two? Are they paying for childcare? Do they have medical debt? How much do they invest? How long could they survive without working? What do they actually own? A person earning $80,000 who owns an affordable home, has no consumer debt, and invests $1,500 every month may be in a stronger position than someone earning $150,000 who spends nearly everything. Income determines your opportunity. The gap between income and spending determines your progress. Ownership determines your freedom. So here is what I would actually do with this information. First, stop chasing a symbolic salary. Do not say, "I will be successful when I make six figures." Calculate what your life actually costs. Start with the amount you need deposited every month, not the impressive gross salary you want to tell people. Calculate housing, transportation, food, healthcare, debt, family responsibilities. Then add your savings goals. How much do you need to invest for retirement? How quickly do you want to build an emergency fund? Are you saving for a home? Do you want the ability to take time away from work? Once you have that monthly number, work backward to the gross salary required after taxes and benefit deductions. That is your real target. Second, treat housing and transportation as one combined decision. People will rent a cheaper apartment 50 miles from work, then spend the savings on a car, gas, insurance, tolls, and 2 hours of daily commuting. Or they will live somewhere walkable with higher rent and assume they are being financially irresponsible, even though they eliminated an entire vehicle. Do not judge rent by itself. Judge the total cost of living in that location. Third, measure wealth by runway. If your income stopped tomorrow, how long could you maintain your basic life? 1 week, 1 month, 6 months, 5 years? That number may tell you more about your financial position than your salary does. Fourth, prevent raises from disappearing. When your income increases, decide where the additional money goes before it reaches your checking account. Increase your retirement contribution, automate an investment, pay down high-interest debt, build a specific fund. You should enjoy some of your raise. The point of earning more is partly to improve your life, but if every raise becomes another permanent monthly payment, your lifestyle improves while your freedom remains exactly the same. Finally, understand that a high income is a tool, not an identity. You are not rich because your employer temporarily values your labor at $100,000 a year. You become wealthier by converting part of that income into things you continue owning after the paycheck stops. cash reserves, retirement accounts, broad investments, a business, home equity when purchased responsibly, skills that increase your bargaining power. The six-figure salary is not useless. It is still a significant achievement. It can create breathing room that millions of people do not have. It can help you escape debt, build savings, support your family, and begin accumulating assets. But it is no longer the finish line. In many places, it is the starting point from which building a conventionally middle-class life finally becomes realistic. That is the salary that used to mean you made it. And the reason it no longer feels that way is not simply that everybody suddenly became irresponsible. The number stayed frozen while the price of stability kept rising. In 2000, $100,000 represented nearly $195,000 of modern purchasing power. Today it represents about half of that. So yes, earning $100,000 is good, it is above average, it can provide a comfortable life, but it does not automatically make you rich, and pretending that it does prevents us from seeing how dramatically the economic finish line has moved. The new goal should not be reaching a magical salary. The goal should be building a life where your income consistently exceeds your obligations, your assets grow without requiring every hour of your time, and one lost paycheck does not erase everything you built. Because the number printed on your employment contract is not wealth. What remains after life takes its share is what actually matters.